Hi guys, it's Harvey. Alright, this is going to be part one. There's going to be about 40 parts to this. We're going to start going through a manual on a Hayward. This is a universal thing on your Haywards that, have a blower to them. This is on the new unit. If you understand the sequence on your heater, it'll help you diagnose it. I know it sounds silly, but if I pull up to a job, I turn on the heater first and listen to it. See how far it gets. Believe it or not, it tells me a lot. Just by turning it on and listening to it. It tells me a lot. If you listen and understand what it wants to do, you can start figuring things out. Number one, say argument's sake, we got it set at 80. It's going to be not just sitting there at 81, 82, but when it drops to about 79, it's going to call for heat. So if you're not calling for heat, okay, she'll never turn on. She'll just sit there, do nothing, just look at you and be a pretty heater. Now this is where the sequence, and you gotta read and understand all your manuals when you get your heater. Read and understand your manual. This is one page. I don't need to see this. This is the first page I would read. Because if you understand the sequence that it wants to do, you can start diagnosing things. Keep in mind, you want to fix your own heater. I don't care what anybody says. If you don't have a good meter with a amp probe to it and a manometer, you're not going to fix your heater because you're not going to know where you are. All right? But going on a tangent. First thing it's going to do, it's going to say, okay, let's start going for safety. And a vacuum switch is a safety. And it wants to see an open vacuum switch. The reason why is the blower's not on. The blower only closes the vacuum switch. So if it sees a closed vacuum switch, it's not going to do nothing. Just going to give you another error code. Just because, haha, we fooled you. We're smarter than you. I see it a lot of times. People, just jumper out this vacuum switch. Well, guess what? The heater fooled you. Has to see an open vacuum switch. And people ask me, well, how long do I need to leave it not jump it and then jump it? And you don't know. It's up to the board. So if you got a bad vacuum switch, it's part of the safeties. Can't stress enough. You never, ever bypass a safety. Ever. All right? Then the blower starts up. Does a pre-purge. It, makes sure that the vacuum switch is closing. All your safeties start passing checks. It goes through remember the millivolt, and it has to go through all the safety checks and everything else like that. Checks for the vacuum switch being now a closed switch. That means the tubing's good, the blower is good, pulling the correct vacuum. So it's going to close that vacuum switch. Once that passes all the safeties, that's when your igniter will start. Your igniter doesn't start glowing right away. All right? So once it comes up to temperature, it turns and opens up the gas valve. It ignites. Now, if the flame sensor senses no flame, it's going to shut everything down. So this is where you need a manometer. Do you have gas pressure? Do you have gas? Is your valves on? May sound silly. You don't know how many thousands of dollars I made because one of the gas valves are off. Oh well, you service the pool, supposed to know what you're doing. Call me out there. I'm a tech. I get X amount per hour. Even if I was there for 2 minutes or 59 minutes, it's X amount of money. All right. So that's where a manometer comes in at this point. It checks for flame, checks for heat, and it just keeps on running. All right. You got a happy heater right now. It's up and running, and everything's fine and dandy. When it's done calling for heat, turns off your gas valve, all right, and the blower will stay on. Okay, a post purge. It is going to try to get all those fumes again out of the system, unburnt gas, heat. It's mainly to cool down the system. Okay, that's another big thing I can't stress enough. These new heaters are going to start getting more and more energy efficient. So the longer they run, the hotter they stay. And really didn't read this manual yet, so we're reading it now. But every heater that you work on, once you turn off the heater, you let that pump run for 15 minutes. I don't care what heater. The reason why, you want to cool it down slowly. All right? And then you'll run water through the heat exchanger and keep cooling down that heater. I see it a lot of times out in the field, the Jandies and stuff like that. Up, turn off the heater, let's turn off the pump. I've seen Jandy heaters just start twisting from heat. Not knocking Jandy. Jandy is an excellent heater. But you need to run your pool pump. So this is going to be part 1 on the Hayward H Series, the new one. Excellent heater. I'm getting good comments about it. The only bad thing I don't like about the Hayward heaters, if you're in a rental market, you can't lock out the temperature. All right? You just can't lock it out. You need a controller. That's the only thing I don't like about the Hayward heaters. You cannot lock them out on temperature. For your own home, it's fine. But for a rental home, they're a disaster. And the other thing is, and you pull people and everybody, I see it all the time, and I strip it off and I get complaints. Why? I bought a fancy lock. You can't bind, change, or alter a gas appliance. So let's put this heater in, and let's put a thermostat box over where you turn it on and off. That is tampering with a gas appliance. It is illegal to do it. This is a gas appliance. You can't bind, change, or alter from the manufacturer. All right? End of discussion. All right, guys, this is part 1. Understand how your heater should start working. Make sure you get yourself a manometer. Make sure you get yourself a good amp probe meter, and you can start working on your own heaters. Part 2 and part 3, start looking for them. Go on Hayward, get this book, and you can walk through with me on reading and understanding the manual. This is the first time I'm reading it. I want to read it and understand it. So I figured, well, I haven't read it. I haven't understood it. So I'm going to read it. I still like to learn. Isn't that amazing? Old dogs still like to learn. All right? So hopefully this was a little helpful tip. All right, guys, take care.